Welcome to the MiningNewsWire Podcast, powered by IBN. This original audio production delivers market and sector insights, as well as exclusive interviews with innovative executives shaping the future in fast-moving industries, and may feature a client partner of IBN or one of the 60-plus investor-focused brands within IBN's dynamic brand portfolio. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, IBN leverages its extensive distribution network, utilizing multiple proprietary corporate communication tools to introduce both public and private companies to a vast and diverse audience of investors, consumers, influencers, journalists, and other targeted segments of the public. IBN may have received compensation to produce this audio content. Please be sure to read IBN's entire disclaimers for full disclosures. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the next revelatory episode of IBN's MiningNewsWire Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Stuart Smith for the Investor Brand Network, and thank you so much for taking time with us here today as we shine a spotlight on another smart and fresh play out there in the market today. I want you to go to the Investor Brand website. I want you to click on the Clients tab. And there, in alphabetical order, you're going to find ESGold. We're talking to ESGold Corp today. They're traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol ESAU, and on the OTCQB here in the States under the ticker symbol ESAUF. And we're lucky enough today to be joined by the president of the company. That is none other than Brad Kitchen. Brad, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Stuart, I'm the lucky one. Thanks very much for having me today.
Well, absolutely. We look forward to learning more about you, our guest, and of course, your company. So let's start there. Before we dive into your specific projects, let's learn about the foundation for the company. For those who don't know who you are, let's get the business model and the markets that you operate in.
Okay, so we are a junior resource company that has the Montabon project in Quebec. We're different, though, Stuart, from every other junior resource company in that we are looking for gold and silver, but we're actually going to be in production first and then follow up with our exploration. We're in a very unique situation that we're fully permitted. We're starting to build our extraction mill. We will be extracting gold and silver. The revenue, and what we're doing is we're actually taking the revenue from tailings. Montabon was a mine for 80 years. There's roughly $100 million worth of tailings that's sitting on the ground that needs to be reprocessed. When we reprocess it, we extract silver, gold, and mica, which is another byproduct that has a very good revenue stream. The toxic site will then no longer be toxic. And what we're going to use the proceeds from that is not only to expand the mill itself, it will be a 1,000-ton-a-day mill, but we're also going to do exploration on the property. Montabon was a mine for 80 years, but there had never been a model constructed. There was never any systematic, methodical approach on how to extract the gold, silver, and that's what we're going to do. And that's what we've had quite a bit of success in the past as well. We've taken projects recently. There was one, Windfall Lake, that I started from zero to bankable feasibility. That was a couple of years ago, sold it to OTCQB, and they've just recently sold it 50% of that for $1.6 billion. So I'm very excited to get into production because that will give us the revenue to then find out exactly how large the resource is at Montabon. But we're hoping that there will be at least another 10 to 15 years of mine life after we process the tailings.
Well, I'm excited you brought that up. I was going to bring that up, Brad, when we talked more about your background, but the Windfall Lake project, which was sold to Gold Fields for $1.6 billion, obviously this is showing, the validity of why you're on this team, of course, but the validity of the process of management. And before we jump into Montabon a little bit deeper, let's take a step back and look at the macro. Obviously, in turbulent market times, that's easy for me to say, in turbulent market times, we see people flood into gold, which it's no different now, but it's a little different now in the sense that now we're seeing this proliferation of different uses of all types of metals and minerals like mica that you mentioned, because of electronics, because of the evolution of lithium ion batteries, because of components in cars, computers, and electronics that all need gold. Do you feel, again, from a macro standpoint, that we're in the precipice of a frontier for gold that maybe we haven't been on before?
Well, I think it's not only gold, but I think it's gold and that silver. And you're right, for other projects as well. But from the tailings itself, we're going to take about 700,000 ounces of silver. And silver, again, is used a lot in your EVs, your solar panels. And gold right now, as you said, it's sort of that fallback. People feel comfortable with gold. We're now at historic highs. Unfortunately, with the way the world is going right now, that may continue. But yeah, there are a lot of uses for gold as well too. But it, the other positive about what we're doing and the jurisdiction that we're in Quebec is that when we're processing the tailings, there's such a huge margin on this stuff that gold would actually have to drop to $700 an ounce from the 3,400 that's at right now. So before we even break even. So it's just such a high margin market. And over the next 3 years, we're going to be processing this, which will generate the $1 million or $100 million, excuse me, which will get us into the extremely quick exploration. So it's the market's working very well for us.
Yeah, it sure is. And we touched on this a little bit earlier, or you did. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper on it. But you're right. I should mention that Canada's next premier and gold silver producer is ESGold Corp. I pulled that from your website. I'd like you to follow along there as well, everyone. Just go to ESGold.com. But let's talk a little bit more about Montabon. Incredibly convenient location, 80 miles from Quebec City, fully permitted and funded and near-term production. This is from the investment considerations, by the way, available to you at Investor Brand Network. Construction underway soon at Montabon with gold and silver production expected in Q3 of 2025. That's impressive. So let's dig into Montabon.
Sure. Fantastic city. It's a town that was a mining city for 80 years. The mine started in 1910. I live in Vancouver, but I fly out to Quebec often. And when I do, I can land at the Montreal airport and be at the site within 2 hours. Very convenient. We don't have to build a camp. There's highway right to the property. And the most important thing is that we've been embraced by the community. It was a mining community. There was no other industry. We're coming back now. There's started to be an uptick in the housing prices. They lost their, Stuart, this is a funny little story, but they lost their grocery store about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, and you don't think, okay, well, that's fine, but it's not. It's a Saturday night, you need to get a loaf of bread. You now have to drive 30 minutes to the nearest town to get that loaf of bread to come back. Anyways, real drag, but that's what happens in communities that lose their industry. We've come back. There was a couple in Montreal. They sold their restaurant. They bought the old co-op building. They brought in the grocery store. They brought in a bakery. There's a little bistro now. So not that we're even starting production yet, but there's that small little element that we've already brought to the community that we want to continue. We're not generating a ton of jobs. It'll be about 20 to 30 jobs, but they're good, solid jobs. And that will increase as we do more exploration and as we potentially do some mining on the site.
Well, that is neat. That's a great story. I love some tie-ins like that as well. We all want our heartstrings pulled on a little bit, especially when we're looking for our portfolio to do just the same for us. Let's talk a little bit about the team. And I think it's important that foundation that you're building there at ESGold, well, that's a part of it, getting the grocery store back there. But as you pointed out, and I want to reiterate, you're setting yourself up for a long-term growth through this dual track strategy, which is cash flow generation from tailings and reprocessing to fund the direct scale exploration. Again, that's straight from the Investor Brand Network, right up on the company. Be sure to check that out. Let's learn about you first as our guest, Brad, and your background is impressive, as we touched on earlier. And then let's hear about some of the other key members on the management team.
Sure. My background, I'm a civil engineer with an MBA. After my MBA, I went and moved to Toronto, where I was a VP and Director of Structured Finance at a large investment banking firm in Canada, CIBC Wood Gundy. Why that's important is I had a chance to move back to Vancouver after about 15 years on the job, bring a little bit of that blue suit, King and Bay, Toronto mentality to House Street and help out a few of these companies. Had success with the Windfall Lake, now with ESGold. I actually met Paul about 7 years ago. I was with the company for a while. brought the project in. Paul came to me about 9 months ago and said, Brad, do you mind coming back, helping us out? Company at the time still had the project, still fully permitted, still had the mine building there. But the market cap of the company was about $3 million. Very illiquid stock. We traded about 5,000 shares a day. Paul and I sat down, and I'll talk to you a little bit about Paul in a second, but we sat down and said, okay, what are we going to do? And the key was to focus on production, get an operating plan, tie that operating plan to our marketing plan, make sure we get the message out. This is what IBN is helping us out with, making sure people understand the value in the company, make sure people understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. And if you do go on our website, you'll see we have an extensive list of news releases on really important weekly progress on the company. So the key for us is to get in there and get that message out. And as a result, we've taken the market cap of the company since July of last year. It's now from 3 million. We're now roughly $35 million. We've gone from about 5,000 shares a day trading to now between 300 to 400,000 shares, both on the Canadian Stock Exchange and now on our OTCQB listing. The other management teams, we've got Paul Massantuono. Now, Paul's had the weight of this project on his shoulder for about 14 years. He's discovered the project, went to the city, approached the city saying, we think that we can benefit the city by not just covering over this toxic sand dune, which effectively it is, but we want to generate jobs. We have a vision that we can create some value in the property just on what's there on the tailings. We'll then do some exploration and expand the resource. The city embraced Paul permitting process, which is the key in all this, whether it's the States or in Canada. This takes years and millions of dollars, and that's all been done. Paul's had that on his shoulders. In addition, over the 14 years, he's had very solid financial support. He's had people that's been in the project that not only invested 10 years ago, they're investing again because they believe in what we're doing and that we can get into production, which is no small feat in these markets today.
Well, it's a great team, and you can learn about this team, the whole leadership team. Andre Gauthier as well, a senior geologist. I hope I gave his name justice is there. But yeah, let's move on though. Let's talk about some of the actual events for the company. You know, we're already in May of 2025 somehow, and I'd like to ask you, you know, this year and even into 2024, what have some of the major milestones and achievements for your company been, Brad?
Well, the key thing is making sure that we get the message out, and we're doing that. And I think that's starting to reflect in the market cap. We're not nearly at the market cap that we should be. Net present value of the company is much higher. But for us, it's getting enough money that we can construct the mill. So we have raised roughly $4 million since June of last year, $4 or $5 million. June last year, we've just closed a financing. So we're fairly well financed. And as a result, we started construction on the mill, completing the mill circuit on April 28th. And what we're doing, the process is we've acquired most of the equipment, about 40% of the equipment, the big heavy duty crushers. We have the spinners that will take out the mica that you talked about, and then set up that process. And that process will take us about 6 months. So we have enough money to start that. There's pictures now on the site of things happening. So that's sort of the key for us. In addition, though, we're still keeping an eye on the exploration. We started a program, and the acronym is ANT, and that's for Ambient Noise Tomography, which is a big way of saying we're going to be able to develop a 3D model of the resource or the structure of the mineralization at Montabon. Stuart, this is really cool technology that's only been used once before in Canada. It uses satellites. We'll be using AI to augment it. It's going to help create that foundation or that base that we talked about, so that not only can we process the tailings, take the $100 million from that, but make sure that we can continue this mine on for another 12 to 15 years with extraction from our exploration.
Well, there's exciting news is on the press wire as well. Again, you talked about keeping everybody informed, but here we are in 2025, and here we are at the dateline of this interview. This came out yesterday, Wednesday, May 7th. Here's the headline: ESGold Corp invited to present at the Metals Investor Forum on May 9th, 2025 in Vancouver. You guys were invited by silver expert Peter Krauth, and that's going to happen in Vancouver, May 9th, Friday at the Rosewood Hotel in Georgia. So like you just said, you're doing a great job of getting the news out, and there's a lot of other news on the press wire. Use the ticker symbol that suits where you are in the world. For us, it's ESAUF. For those our friends north of the border, ESAU. So let's talk then about wrapping up 2025, Brad. And you've touched on this several times within some of our other questions. Here's the things we're working on. Here are our initiatives. But as the president, specific goals that you might have personally for the company, whether it is on the awareness side, whether it is on the production, the exploration side, what are your own specific personal goals for the company, Brad?
We have three key components. One is get into production. Two is explore, develop a model of the resource. And three is make sure everybody knows about it. And that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's fairly simple. We've developed an extremely good operations plan. We've mirrored that with our marketing plan, so people will be aware of what we're doing. This isn't rocket science. It's taking an existing product. It's almost like recycling the tailings and extracting so much value, and especially in today's market. There's no risk. We're fully permitted. The building's already there. It's just literally a case of completing this Lego project that puts together the mill. So that's what the targets for the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months are. And I know we're going to be able to achieve them. And I really hope that your viewers will continue to pay attention to us and see how we achieve those goals.
Well, we're going to make sure that they do, Brad, and we're going to do that by getting you back in here for another update. And usually I like to ask my guests to give us sort of a closing thought or comment, and I will allow you that opportunity, but boy, you summed it up right there. The opportunity that you present to investors is unique. But with that, any closing thoughts or comments, anything you'd like to say, even if you want to compliment me on how handsome I am, that is fair game, Brad. But anyways, closing thoughts or comments.
I don't necessarily like to point out the obvious, but yes, Stuart, you're a very good looking man. Key with ESGold is we're different than everybody else. We're going into production first, and from that production, we'll be able to finance our exploration, our other acquisitions. So that's where we turn the table on the rest of the competitors out there.
Well, excellent. Once again, we are speaking with Brad Kitchen. He is the president there at ESGold. That's the website as well, esgold.com here in the States, esgold.ca in Canada. But you can always find everything and links to that at investorbrandnetwork.com. You want to bring up that clients tab. You want to go in alphabetical order, and you'll see this whole profile that I've been working from on ESGold. Brad, thank you so much for your time here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, for Brad Kitchen, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in.
The MiningNewsWire podcast is an original content production powered by IBN, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company that delivers next-generation corporate communication solutions. Utilizing proprietary corporate communication tools such as news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and brand awareness techniques, among others, IBN introduces both public and private companies to diverse audiences to enhance reach and recognition. IBN may receive compensation for services and solutions provided to its client partners. You should assume that the owners, officers, and directors of IBN or financial analysts mentioned in this production may hold a position in and may intend to trade the securities in their own accounts. This production is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell any securities that may be mentioned in this production. The information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured companies carries inherent investment risk. Listeners should review the companies thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This production by IBN is not purported to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used in statements of fact have been obtained from featured companies and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by IBN as to completeness and accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see IBN's full disclaimers and disclosures at www.ibn.fm/disclaimer. Music in this episode is by Infraction. For more, visit inaudio.org.